It's always great to have your company. Every day, you're opportune to wake up to an amazing experience that births a new day. We have so many reasons to give thanks. On our program, Weekend Deal, we're very thankful to have the opportunity to impact people in a positive way. But our biggest thanks goes to you, our esteemed viewer, who wakes up with us every weekend to be a part of the program so that together we can forge paths of progress and prosperity, hopefully which are just well. Today, we're talking about unmasking fraud. Technology has brought many great things. You know, we can buy and sell and do our banking appliances and everything online, but beyond that, some say there's a web of deceit that's impacting many people and is gaining momentum such that on a daily basis, many people are emotionally and psychologically devastated as a result of online scams and many more things that happen online. Today, as we unmask fraud on Weekend Deal, we urge you to be a part of the program. Please participate actively, share your experiences, and that's how everyone can learn and we can prefer solutions and improve the enlightenment process. My name is Thelma Obaza. Well, now it's time to set the tone for our conversation on masking fraud. An ugly word because it talks about wicked things that devastate people to the extent where there's trauma in many cases. People get to lose their lifelong savings. They get to lose property, you know, and the trauma and the mental impact can be devastating and far-reaching. And that's why Francis is talking about this with David Akoji, who's the Director of Special Duties and Operations at the National Orientation Agency. There's talk of dishonesty, deceit, obtaining gain falsely. Francis, please share.
Fraud connotes dishonesty. It connotes deceit. It connotes obtaining gain by means that are ordinarily not procedural and not proper. So that's what fraud stands for. Now, if you look at it in terms of 419, for instance, it refers to, I think, a penal code which deals with that type of infractions against the law. Now, 419 is perpetrated in terms of person to person. It's also perpetrated using internet technologies, you know. And we have seen cases also where it has become a transnational crime. You know, some people sit here in Nigeria, pretend to be what they are not, you know, and then transact businesses with people in other countries and dispossess those people of their hard-earned resources. At the end of the day, such innocent person leaves the scene thinking that he has purchased a legitimate property, only to find out later that he's been duped. So a lot of this type of fraud goes on. Also in environments like the banks. You know, banks lose a lot of money yearly to all kinds of fraud. Some involves members of staff in such bank or funds belonging to customers. So this also happens even around the banking environment. It's not restricted to any particular environment. You find fraud happening, you know, literally everywhere. Some people forge documents and claim to have qualifications that they don't have. This is also fraud of some sort. You know, you can call that forgery. It's fraud. On a national scale, we have seen this play out in hallowed places like the National Assembly. somebody who emerged as speaker, was later discovered not to possess the certificates that they claimed to have possessed, at that time. We have seen people forge NYC certificates. I'm sure you've heard about that also. And then they were later found out, and it led to consequences, in this country. We also have a challenge of economic circumstances that seemingly does not allow people to try doing legitimate businesses. So you find that people want to cut corners, in order to get ahead, in order to achieve some of their life goals and ambitions. This is absolutely wrong. But I think that the biggest challenge that causes fraud is our values, our ethics and values. I also think that the family system is failing in monumental ways. Time was where people respected their parents. People want to grow up to be like their parents. But today, you find that our children in secondary school want to drive the best cars, wear designer clothes. We no longer live in an age where people look at hard work and how hard work graduates on a stage by stage basis to give them a better life. No, they want to jump from the beginning to the end. So you begin to hear funny terms like, I want to hammer. And that leads to some of these fraudulent acts that you speak about. It's become so bad today that people are moving from the basics of Yahoo, which is one of those scams and fraud, and they are moving to Yahoo Plus, where human life is no longer held sacred. So you go to schools, it's become the norm that people want to pass exams by engaging in exam malpractices. Look at the recent case we saw with JAMB. As intelligent as that child that was involved in that case is, she still felt motivated to do something fraudulent. It's an absence of adherence to our known ethics and values, which is captured even in the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended. Many people carry out those fraudulent activities thinking that it's just between them and those upon whom they are perpetrating this fraud. No, it creates a national and international impression about our country, and it's very, very bad. This is not a problem that we can leave to one institution to solve. At the level of teachers, at the level of religious leaders, at the level of traditional rulers, at the level of schools, at the level of parents, we all have a responsibility to turn this tide positively and create a country, a people that are respected because they have integrity, because they are disciplined, because they have dignity in labor.
It's great to have you with us on our program today as we unmask fraud. So wide-ranging and has many negative impacts, so that we've heard of cases where people lose their life savings, and then the trauma, the aftermath. They talk of webs of deceit being woven and it goes on for quite a bit. So today we'll be talking with Emmanuel Obonga Okoy. Emmanuel is a cybersecurity and forensic analyst, and he talked about being certified and licensed. We like that word. Great to have you on Weekend Deal today.
Thank you very much.
Every time we talk about issues on Weekend Deal, it's because it has become huge, whether it's positive or it's negative. And in this case, it's negative. That's why we say we're unmasking fraud. And we need your help and your guidance to do so. We do know that you and others of your ilk are aware of what is going locally and internationally.
Yes, we are so much aware of the level of fraud, One can as well say this fraud is coming in different diversities, and it requires experts to work in areas where we can detect this particular fraud and also be able to report them to the available security agencies to take precautions to ensure these people are brought to book.
But how often are we successful in There are hackers of monumental proportions. How often are you and others of your ilk able to hack them?
Okay.
And then hand them over to security agencies?
Okay, according to the book in Hacking 206 and analysis, malware analysis 101, it gives areas where hacking actually is a way of having unauthorized access to one another system. And we have ethical hacking. We have hacking itself. And in hacking, we have types of hacking. We have the black hat hackers, and then we have the gray hat hackers, and we have the white hat hackers. Now, we begin to explain these three categories of hackers. Their job are actually like someone who is trained professionally to combat crime. That is the white hat hackers. Their ability to detect fraud, exploit, and also expose the vulnerabilities and counter these vulnerabilities, create solutions that will automatically be used to mitigate this fraud or possibly hacking. Now, we have the gray hat hackers. Their job most times is ability to stay between the fence, looking at maybe today someone is actually hungry or something. That I'm talking about the professionalism in hacking now. Now, hungry or something, and you decide to say, okay, I'm going to be nice today, and I'm going to be good at evening, depending on the nature of what he wants to achieve. And then the
I'm going to be
black hat
nice
hackers,
today means
he can as well decide
he won't do
to-
anything negative,
Not negative.
but sometimes he will.
For example, during the exercise, you remember some anonymous experts were able to exploit and hack into some systems and networks, and were sharing some.
So that time
figures.
they were not being nice.
That
Okay,
they were
we
not
want to
being nice.
call for the
So-
next feature so that we continue to gain more understanding about what we're talking about. And Susan's been doing some research about online scams and phishing attacks. We do hear that this is the negative and fraudulent practice of sending mails and messages and saying or purportedly from reputable companies, while in real time, and the real story is that they are fake, and that means they are fraudulent. Well, Susan delved deeper, and that's what she'll share with us now. Susan.
The internet has revolutionized the way we live and work. But with great convenience comes great risk. The internet has become an integral part of our daily lives, enabling us to shop, communicate, and access information effortlessly. However, lurking in the shadow are cyber criminals who seek to exploit our trust and vulnerability. Phishing attacks are one of the most common online scams. Cyber criminals send emails that appear to be from legitimate sources, tricking unsuspected users into revealing sensitive information.
Ensure that when you are typing the URL means your address for maybe your bank. Always go to the address bar and type www.thebanksname or the bank's address.com. Don't just see a link somewhere and try to click on it. So the idea is to be conscious. Of course, when your boss or your colleague sends you an email, you know their email address, you know their style of writing, you have an idea. You should be able to say, okay, this one looks genuine, open it. But if it looks suspicious, anything that you see, don't understand, please clarify from the person that sent it.
The consequences are severe. Victims can suffer significant financial loss, jeopardizing their hard-earned savings and financial security.
My house rent. What will I do now? I'm done. I'm finished.
Do not click on suspicious links or download attachment from unknown sources. Verify the legitimacy of emails or messages before sharing any sensitive information. Use strong and unique password for different online accounts. People have this habit of having one password for everything. That is bad. Enable two-factor authentication whenever possible. Maybe somebody want to log in to my Facebook page, for example, or Instagram, or any platform that has the two-factor authentication. It will send an OTP to my phone number. So only with that OTP that I will have access to that account that I'm trying to access.
Furthermore, online scam can lead to massive data breaches, compromising the personal information of countless individuals.
Who have this habit of not updating their security tools or not updating their softwares. This is what most of those software companies do. When they find out that there is a tendency that these online scammers or they have when they can maybe penetrate into the software, they immediately want to address that. And the only way you can want to protect it is when you update.
This breach of privacy leaves victims vulnerable to identity theft and other cyber crimes. Besides financial loss, the emotional tolls on victims can be devastating. Feelings of betrayals, shame, and anger can lead to increased stress and anxiety, affecting mental health and overall well-being.
One thing you could do is to look at the comments. What are other people saying? What are their ratings? Do they have a physical address you can verify? If they have, then you can go. Or do you know anybody else that has bought from them? These are all non-technical strategies that you can use to verify. For example, if I see someone selling shoes, I look at, okay, who are our mutual friends? Okay, he's friends with this guy, that guy, that guy. Okay, perhaps I can now send a message to one of my friends. I say, I see that you're friends with this guy that sells this item. I want to buy. Have you bought from them? If they tell you, yes, I've bought from them, that gives you confidence that it's probably genuine. There's a lot of people out there doing genuine business, and it's good to patronize them, but just do your due diligence to ensure that you don't fall a victim of scam, because we've seen a lot of people that they pay money, and then after they pay, they don't hear from these people.
The impact of online scam and phishing attack on society is significant and far-reaching. But by staying informed, taking precautions, and working together, we can build a safer and more secure digital world for everyone.
People do fraudulent things with a negative mindset. The aim is to exploit and oftentimes steal something that ordinarily you would not give them permission to take. Of course, that's why we're talking about fraudulent activities, online scams. My cyber expert, Manuel, let's take it from here.
Okay, so we can decide to, first and foremost, start from the root of this whole subject. What is fraud? Fraud is a misinterpretation of truth and violation of truth. When someone thinks about an idea on how to illicitly, his intent is illicit, to exploit either a person or an organization, is actually a fraud. Now, why do people commit fraud? Why do you think people commit fraud digitally? Let's use the electronic means of fraud. It's because they are possibly having a triangle of negative intent, illicit intent. First, financial pressure, rationalization, and also opportunity. If I'm communicating with someone and I observe that this person is so emotional and rational in he or her reasoning,
Emotional and irrational.
Yes.
Not rational.
Emotional and irrational.
Irrational.
Then automatically, because my intent had been illicit from the beginning, my idea is to do something that will entice the person to open up to what I want to do or what I want to gain. I automatically look for weaknesses that I can exploit. And if I'm able to try and the weaknesses are beyond my understanding, if I look for measures that this person is actually not able to counter, I will begin to, retrieve my step. And if there have been proactive measures already with this particular individual or organization, I will retrieve my steps. But if there are weaknesses, which in another way we call them
You
vulnerabilities,
go further.
you begin to say, okay, fine, this is where I can exploit.
But where we are now is that they have been so successful to the point where we describe the impact of fraud, especially online, as monumental. That means it's gone beyond the ordinary, it's gone beyond what we can just turn a blind eye to. Monumental means it's in gigantic proportions, and that means millions of people are losing money. And when we've been talking with people, we find that some of them say they are too ashamed to even speak up. People will say, how could you? You should have known better.
Good.
Like when that feature was going on, Susan's feature, you were saying, how will they know? In our build-up, we have some people who have given us tips on how to identify, but we know it cannot cover all, because the more we'll put our hands on them and their nucleus, as we're speaking now, many are devising new demonic strategies to exploit people. The whys and the wherefores are obvious in some cases. Times are daunting financially, but it's happening for everyone. So nothing justifies you going to take somebody's hard-earned money. After all, they too are facing the times you are facing. What we wonder is, how can they be so largely successful in this negative practice? Why are there no limitations online to stop many of these negative practices?
Okay, let me come from the expert angle of countering and mitigating fraud. Even if it is online or maybe 419, physically, conversations or action, whichever way. Now, there is what we call understanding the objective of your enemy. A business, the strategy of proactive measures for countering internet fraud or online fraud or hacking, whichever way, is the ability to understand who is your enemy. When you understand who is your enemy, you take the second step of understanding the language of your enemy. This fraud.
And that's where you come in?
Yes. I'm coming from the countermeasures on how you can be able to.
Are you not part of the countermeasures?
That's what I'm discussing, the knowledge on why you should not fall a victim. You know, in Africa.
No, we've gone beyond the victims, because the victims don't have the technical know-how that the experts do. And little matter how we'll start to learn, we cannot be abreast with you. What I'm saying is, why does it seem to be so easy for hackers and fraudsters to succeed online?
It is the awareness. People are not aware. We are in a system where people hardly study and read. There are informations in the internet that you can help yourself, what we call cybersecurity tips, simple safety tips, cybersecurity simple safety tips, where you automatically do one or two things like checking your type of apps you download. What apps? There are some apps you don't need, but you see people have almost 200 apps, and possibly most times they don't even update them. They don't even know the consequences.
Through those apps, these hackers can come on.
This is some of the apps developed that have not been tested and verified. Some of them are spyware. They expose even what you say, even with your phone. Now, we've had a lot of issues about cyberbullying. It's still part of fraud. You are just there and eventually some of your digits are missing. And then you begin to ask why. Perhaps you may have filled in a form in the internet and you've exposed your credentials that are confidential.
What measures are they utilizing?
Now, the common one is just managerial aspect of scam.
Managerial?
Yes. A child, can you imagine a child of 8 years old having his mother's phone, and these are phones that he or she doesn't know the password, he even doesn't understand the pattern. But the child will be very conversant in remembering the ability to unlock that phone. You give a child a phone, he does the mistakes, and before you know, the phone is open. That child doesn't remember the mistake. He remembers the positive aspect of being able to open that phone without the mother's knowledge. And a child will handle
What is positive about that?
Now, positive in terms, he remembers only the ability to unlock the phone. He wouldn't forget that one, because that is the way to succeed or have access into the phone. And then we'll bring it to people, to youth, some young persons who are now using it as a way of masquerading themselves as if though they are actually the original owner of a particular image.
For some people, this is a means of livelihood.
Now, it is actually wrong, trying to masquerade and impersonating someone or yourself as someone else.
It's fraud.
To do this
Even
evil.
before you steal the person's money, it's already fraud.
Fine. But you see, in our own area, there's what we call ethical hacking. Or let me talk about penetration testing, which is a way of detecting fraud, detecting vulnerabilities, exposing them, and also hacking into the system. Because for one to be able to know the vulnerability, the weakness in a system, you first and foremost think like the bad guy who does that. And then it is from that aspect you will detect how the bad guy was able to break into the system or network, the access and the tools he uses to break in, and there you'll be able to deploy means, countermeasures, that you can use
so
to
that you can
open up.
arrest, provide checks and
Address-
balances,
yes, address that
so that you will
particular issues.
mitigate a fraud.
Now,
But how successful are we in that regard?
we are trying. You see, a system that is quite developing. We have the basic infrastructure, but we are still ensuring that more are coming in.
You're at
And
work.
we need to build more cyber experts. We're talking about training, awareness of even the last person, like your mother in the village, should be able not to share his or her PIN that she uses for ATM or ATM card to either his son, who is actually, we know that is an arrogant boy. Out of emotions, you know, in Africa, especially Nigeria, we are so emotional. Somebody may just come up and say that he's suffering from a particular disease or something. Everybody will start contributing. And when people see that, these people are so emotional, it deploys a negative means of trying to say, okay, this is the same thing happening to me. And before you know, everybody will be sending money, sending their links, some will be sending their last savings. And there
help that
are solutions that have been developed by experts.
So do we call that one emotional fraud?
Yes, of course, we could address too.
Someone is exploiting your emotions. But that is not as painful. Even though it is painful, somebody lied to you, but you willingly gave out resources for that person. The one is the one they steal it. When you go to bed, some people have worked 35 years. You know, they've worked 35 years, 30 years. They are saving for the future they envisaged. And in one night, one young, middle-aged, old, whatever person, even some women are involved, we just cash out. And for them, that's money, that's just spending money. Somebody's savings is just something they use, and they will use it anyhow on things they don't really need.
It is very important to still talk about the awareness.
The awareness is so key.
The awareness. Some people just feel that they have known it. And you go to organizations and some places where you discuss with young people, they tell you, I'm aware, forget it. But they still fall victim the next day.
Because these fraudsters are devising new means.
And that is the reason why we still need to go back.
So the training should be ongoing.
It is a continuous process.
Not a one-off.
It's not something that you say you know today. If I'm not careful, I may actually fall a victim. Not because I don't know it, but because I have not taken cognizance to a certain link, a certain weaknesses that I feel I know. And when we begin to feel we know, when there are new areas that these bad guys are deploying, and you are not taking cognizance to the new method that is being used to counter the analog way you were thinking, it still gives room for what? Being exposed to
It makes
fraud.
us vulnerable. So information is king in this case. There's talk about identity theft.
Fine.
In many cases, you won't even know. Someone is using your name, your password, your bank ID, your face to do something. And if somebody has to use my identity, oftentimes it's for a negative thing because they have their own. But there's research that has been done in that regard, and that's what we'll see at this time. Identity theft. Please show us more.
This has become a growing threat that haunts millions of Nigerians. The case of identity thefts, where criminally minded individuals obtain and exploit personal information from people for fraudulent activities, has assumed alarming dimensions over the years.
Everything that is identifiable personally just for you. So when they do this, they steal this to impersonate you, probably for a crime, or everything is just for a kind of maybe a fraudulent activities.
The consequences of identity theft transcends beyond just financial loss. The effects can equally be devastating to one's physical, emotional, and psychological well-being.
In terms of feelings of guilt, shame, anxiety, lack of concentration, irritability, worthlessness, inability to control bowel, insomnia, inability to be intimate with spouse, and many more.
The continual technological growth of the ICT sector in the country have equally transformed the sophistication at which cyber fraudsters operate. Mary Ibekwe, a businesswoman and a victim, shares her experience.
This happened to me last month, one of the Saturdays. On my way home, I lost my phone in the bus. Before I could get to the bank on Monday to alert the bank about what happened, when they printed out the statement of my account, I realized that the person that took my phone, that stole my phone, has opened account, used my SIM to open an account, borrowed up to 300,000 and placed standing order on that my account that I should be paying anytime money comes into that account.
Cyber fraudsters are evolving with different tactics to steal people's personal information and manipulate unsuspecting individuals.
First thing is, in fact, it's the most common one, is the phishing. We call it the phishing. Right? So phishing could come as an SMS and it could come as emails. So there are these fraudulent emails, SMS messages they send to you. Most time they portray themselves as someone who is real. The fish only sees the bait, not seeing rather the hook. So at the end of the day, by the time he goes towards getting the bait, then he get hooked. So that is just the way it is. Sometimes they give you something, a kind of offer you cannot really resist. So whereas the main intention is to steal your information.
Combating this menace has proven to be an Herculean task for a developing economy like Nigeria.
Even when law enforcement agencies want to look after them, search for them, arrest them, people actually prevent such.
How well can one therefore protect himself or herself from identity thefts?
Your name, your BVN, of course, in other countries we call this social security number, Abi. So there are information that are personal for you and they are very sensitive. So once anybody can have access to this thing, the essence is just to use it for fraudulent activities.
In sum, the buck rests most on the lap of every individual. To combat this ever-growing menace of identity theft, it's a collective responsibility and a task that must be done.
There's no one that will feel happy or excited when they hear that, somebody has emptied their account. And we just had a victim now. Her phone was stolen, and that's how her money was extricated from the supposed safety net which the banking system presents for us who are customers and clients. Emmanuel, take it from there. You were saying something, the minute your phone is stolen, are there measures you can take?
Yes, we bring you to strong passwords and weak passwords. Now, a phone is stolen, like the victim we just heard. Her phone was stolen, and then some money were removed and statements were shown, and the same persons are asking for more. The phone contains a lot of persons. 80% of persons now on their life depends on the phone. Every of their information.
80, 99, 95,
No,
96.
we are coming from the angle of proactive measure, not reactive. Okay, so when these informations and they're already detecting that more money is coming in, and perhaps maybe some of the businesses he has done, or she has done rather, she has done, already asking that, okay, in so day we are going to send you this, and you are going to bring us this. So they are using that as a leverage to ask for more. So what you need to do at this point is, first, you go to the nearest security agency. Perhaps you have the police station, you lay a complaint, because it can as well, some such of phone can still be used for another level of fraud.
When they finish with you, they'll go to another person.
Yes, and this brings us to not buying fairly used phones sometimes, because if some of those phones are being used and they are tracking them, and you buy such phone, may actually land you into the same net. So what you do, there are codes that are already available for blocking your phone, blocking your contacts, and even some of your personal accounts. You can dial those codes immediately using another phone.
So we must be aware of those codes first of all.
Yes, first and foremost, we are talking still about awareness, the ability to understand the objective of your enemy. If you understand the objective, one is to exploit, make money, take control.
They are heartless and faceless. They don't care if you are whining and rolling on the floor.
No, that's the That's the illicit intent. You are not interested in how the victim feels.
They dehumanize you.
And we still want to remind the citizens that there are experts that can help combat this crime. That's still under the base of awareness.
Okay, are you not, okay, experts in after the fact, not
Yes.
before the fact.
Yeah, that's why we put up proactive measures, not reactive. We are so conversant with reactive. It is when the event happens or the incident happens, that's when people start reacting. But there are proactive measures that have been put in place. Awareness, the code, the links, and who to call, and the ability to carry out expert threat tracking.
You should also be in touch with your bank officer.
There are codes already, yes. And sometimes this thing happen at weekend, so the bank doesn't operate on weekend. What do? There are codes there available. So we talk about awareness, being able to know, okay, what do I do first before the second step? That's proactive measure.
Okay, there's something else again. It does seem sometimes as though the person exploiting or the group of people are working alongside somebody who may know you and know a bit about you.
Now, there's what we call recognizance, information gathering. There's no hacker. I'm not talking about kiddies hackers. These ones who go around doing phone. We are talking about professionals this time, hackers. Now, no good hacker does anything hacking without carrying out information gathering. That is the process of carrying out all the relationships, the relatives, what this person does, and more of what he's able to do in the net. There are people who have projected plans. They are on their systems and their phones. Some even send it through mails. I'll say, in 2 days' time, I'm going to buy this. I'm already ordering for this. These are people take cognizance to carry out this information vividly before they now begin to break into your assets to exploit you.
Okay. We want to thank you very much for the information. You know, it's a continuing learning process.
Oh, yes.
It doesn't just stop at what we are learning right now. And good thing, we have Michael Udoko, who is an information security and risk consultant, and he will tell us more in the course of our package today. Thank you, Emmanuel Obonga Okoye, cyber security and forensic analysis.
Thank you.
It's huge, it's huge,
Yes.
but we will be unrelenting, because no one wants to be a victim. It does mean we have to learn more and be more aware of what's happening with what we have worked relentlessly, you know, to grow. We must protect it. Ponzi schemes. That's something many are familiar with, locally and internationally. You know, we hear that the way it works is they take money from new investors and they pay the old investors. Some will say it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. But this feature will give us more detail.
Over the years, various Ponzi schemes have appeared from the blues, with government regulatory agencies swinging into action to curb some of their activities and excesses. However, despite effort made to warn investors, many Nigerians still lost huge sums of money to such schemes, which promises huge returns to investors. It involves a generation of returns for earlier investors with money taken from later investors, a case of robbing Peter to pay Paul. How then can one recognize an investment fraud?
Well, Ponzi schemes are not too difficult to recognize because what Ponzi schemes thrives on really is all about law of effect. They come with all kinds of juicy, attractive, packages. But when you look deep down, you'll know that they are not real because they offer you returns that are very difficult, very hard to believe.
Schemes like Mavrodi Mondial Movement, MMM, Givers Forum, Get Help Worldwide, Twinkers, and so on have been on the prowl, with some having collapsed, while many more are emerging on a daily basis, leaving millions of people in debt. Unfortunately, these constant fraudulent acts did not deter Nigerians from falling prey.
Before anything becomes so fake and popular, there is a reason for that. That means it has worked for one or two people before. That's what gave credence to the rumor and the popularity. So if you want to invest in Forex, if that's the game, or you want to invest in crypto, if that's the game, you need to see if it's an authentic platform. And you have to know that in reality in life, there is no free money or free wealth anywhere.
Our lens caught up with some Nigerians who shared their experiences with us.
I remember when I did MMM, just that once I did it. I think I invested like 30,000 and I got 47,000 in 3 weeks. So I had extra 17,000. Thank God I didn't do it again, and that was when it crashed.
I've experienced it when I was in school in Badon in year 2006 with a particular company called Pennywise and West Solution. We asked to bring a certain amount of money, and after bringing the money, we were told that after 3 or 4 weeks, the money will mature and we get some percentage, on which I really got the first percentage. But all of a sudden, the owner of the company ran away. Even of recent, I did one. I and my wife, we did one. They call it Brad. And we invested a lot. Initially, the payment was going. When it was our own turn to collect the amount, the admin ran away.
While regulatory bodies strive to clamp down on Ponzi schemes, investors also have a huge role to play in curbing the activities or excesses.
The Security and Exchange Commission of Nigeria, SEC, they've been doing a lot. And one of the measures they are doing, they've been deploying is advocacy, investors, education. They've been doing a lot. In fact, SEC has gone to the extent of taking investment education up to the level of secondary school. Also, the NGX, the Nigerian Exchange, also have a platform where they try to educate people at the grassroots level, starting from the secondary school. We try to catch them young. We try to educate them on, traditional investment basket.
With reported cases being acted upon, there is need for enhanced cooperation between government regulatory and law enforcement agencies to combat the excesses of these fraudsters from hitting further on our finances. Investors also need to be cautious, ask questions, and seek help from appropriate authorities.
Be cautious, ask questions from appropriate authorities. Sometimes the appropriate authority could be somebody, a colleague, a friend, a neighbor who has had first-hand experience with Ponzi schemes. You don't need to go far. And according to what Michael Udoko, Information Security and Risk Consultant, says, great to have you on Weekend Deal.
Thank you very much.
We've been having our chat off air for quite a bit. He
you.
says that a Ponzi scheme is a no-no, there's no good side. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Ponzi schemes, we've had quite a bit in Nigeria and internationally too. I know that the penalty runs into hundreds of years. There was a certain high-ranking gentleman abroad who had even worked on Wall Street, and nobody looked at his status when he went to court. He was jailed for over 100 years, and he's serving his sentence today. Will such a thing work in Nigeria? In one of our features, we saw a lawyer say that sometimes when people are even arrested, and they want them to pay the price, bring about the full wrath of the law on them, people come to bail them out. People come to defend them. People don't want them to pay for the crime.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, when it comes to fraud and crime of this particular nature, from my own perspective, I try to look at the motivation side of it, because there is no fraud without motivation. Just like Emmanuel, tried to explain to us, there's a triangle. So, and the motivational part, which is what drives them into doing that. In Nigeria, in some societies, let me not say Nigeria, the motivation could be that they always have their way out. They would clean out in the sense that they will make the money, and because of the level of poverty in the society and level of greed, they have people that collude with them, even people within the entities that are supposed to control these activities. They have people colluding with them, so they go to court, and at the end of the day, they have lawyers that will come supporting them. Everybody is interested in what they cashed out, So they want to make money.
But many times they don't even get to court.
Well, they always have their way out, so that's the motivation. So as long as that motivation exists in the triangle, these schemes would always succeed. So one of the ways to address that is to look at, I always look at the social aspects, you know, of addressing crimes and fraud. I always look at the social aspects. So how do you change the mindset of the people? How do you make them to see things in the positive light? That way we can have, you know, an advantage, because if you can change the mind, of course you can change the outcome.
You can change the mind, you can change the outcome. Some of us, initially, we saw it as an investment opportunity, because they say you put in 200,000, you get 250, you know. I was a part of one big one some years ago, and I was able to take my money, you know, perhaps one could say at the nick of time. But I know quite a number of people who they took out, put back, that 250 wasn't enough, or perhaps they wanted to now quadruple that 250. And in the bid to do that, you know, by the next year, you know, by January, the scheme
collapsed,
had crumbled monumentally. Just the way, you know, they say fraud is growing monumentally. That was how a huge, supposedly legitimate business entity crumbled locally and internationally. It was amazing. And all the time, a few people were advising us, don't do that.
Of course.
It won't end well.
Of course.
It won't end well. We've also talked about identity theft. It's happening here. And I know that there are some businesses or some funding mechanisms that are legitimate. And we know that Ponzi schemes are the big title for the illegitimate ones. How do we differentiate between the two?
Well,
what is legitimate? What is it called?
Well, when it's legitimate, you may have some, that's right, the right investments that you put your money into and you expect some genuine returns. But when you start seeing the returns looking so outrageous and what we may call not too possible, like for instance, someone telling you if you bring 100,000 in 30 days, you'll get 100%.
It happened for me. I got it.
Good.
I got it.
These people,
but I'm learning now that there are others who did not get.
Excellent. So the fact remains, just like you said, the more people are aware, and that's where I think the government has a very huge responsibility here to ensure awareness. Organizations like NTA needs to come in. We need to develop programs that would create this awareness amongst the people, because these Ponzi practitioners, let me call them that way, they capitalize on the ignorance of the people. And if you observe very well, you'll see that where the poverty level is high, Ponzi scheme thrives.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, you hold the thought there. We know that many youths seek gainful employment. We do have a group of young people who are entrepreneurial in nature and have been able to build their businesses. But there are quite a number out there who have their CVs with them and seek employment, perhaps as a start after they've graduated from school. And these fraudsters also take advantage of them. Sometimes the negative impact is astronomical. There's kidnapping involved, ransom payment. Sometimes the result is even fatal. Let this feature tell us more.
With a large number of graduates passing out of our universities and National Youth Service Corps annually, job hunting becomes a clear picture of survival of the fittest. The quest to get a job leaves the individual desperate, thus making them vulnerable to the exploitation of scammers. Job scams has become the order of the day, taking different tactics from sending job offer through text messages from unknown numbers, phone calls, emails, to impersonation of existing companies. There are incidents where individuals are asked to pay a certain amount by recruitment agencies to secure jobs. Unfortunately, some people have fallen victim for this ugly trend.
This call I received, I was so excited. Then he told me that I'm to pay a sum of a particular amount, like I think around 25,000 naira, to complete the process, the recruitment process. I was really, really happy. Like, everything was so corporate. I sent the money. So I started calling this guy. I called him. He was not picking my call. At the time, he picked my call. I was like, oh yes, he's going to get back to me. So I was really, really angry, and I don't know what to say. I don't have his address. I don't have anything, and he just took away my money. Honestly, this thing should just stop.
I haven't got some, but my sister have experienced it before once, and she has been sending her CV to a lot of companies, and she got a mail from just someone, and the person was like, to secure this job you have to pay 150k, and or the 3 months salary, and she was like, oh no, that she have to pay 150k, and she asked her parents, like my mom and dad, that they should help her with the money, that she will pay them back. So you just have to give her the money to go to Lagos and go and secure the job. So for her getting to Lagos, she found out that the address was fake, the company is fake, and she was stranded in Lagos here.
Sadly, a lot of job seekers who are ignorant of this fraud have lost reasonable amounts of money. In extreme cases, the victim could be kidnapped or even fall into the hands of ritualists. However, there are ways to spot fake job advertisements.
1, the demand for payment upfront to secure the position for you. 2, there is an unrealistic compensation and benefit attached to the job. 3, there's lack of transparency to the job description and requirements. 4, they tend to use fake company names or impersonate a legitimate company to deceive you. And 5, they tend to ask for your personal or banking information to set up a direct deposit for you, while in reality is to swindle you of your money and steal your identity.
Although fake jobbers are the order of the day, here are tips to identify legitimate job opportunities.
1, you conduct a thorough research on the company by verifying how long they've been in existence, how they've been performing, and also go online to check reviews on them to see if there are any negative reviews relating to fraud or scam associated with them. 2, you scrutinize the job advertisement by making sure the job description and requirements is very, very clear and you understand it, and there is no unrealistic compensation attached to it. 3, you can contact them directly by calling their official lines, sending them a mail, and also you can pay them a visit in person. 4, no legitimate job offer or company will ask you for your personal or banking information details without offering you an employment.
It is pertinent to note that job scams cuts across all kinds of jobs, both in private and government establishments. Hence, one has to be vigilant while searching for jobs.
Unmasking fraud is our focus today. We thank you for your keen participation. Mr. Ojo from Maitama says, sometime last week, someone called me to do some things on my phone to be able to activate my account. After that, they asked of some more details about my account, and they asked for my BVN. But I refused wisely because I've heard about online scams, and I know that my BVN is personal to me. The caller got angry and he dropped. Ojo from Maitama, thank you very much for this information. So, you know, it so happens that Mr. Ojo knows a bit about what is happening with these mischief makers, these fraudsters, and he knows that his BVN is personal to him. A lot of these people employ innovative methods, but we do know that there are tips we can look out for, and that sometimes we just pause the moment to really let what they're telling us sink in. We will see that they have no right to ask us of such information.
Yes, you see, the truth remains, these people, they capitalize on the human elements, which is your emotions. And sometimes I've been, let me not say I'm a victim, but I've received several calls like that from them. And sometimes there was even an instance I almost fell for it. Yeah, because
with all your experience,
with all my experience, because the guy was so friendly when he called me, and he was telling me, "Guess who is calling you?" Foolishly, I just said, I mentioned my friend who is in the US because I was actually expecting a call from him. He said, "That's it, you got it." And he said, "I have something for you." Before I know it, he advised me to go somewhere and get something. He knew what I was actually looking for then. I wanted to get laptops and stuff. He said, okay, I've sent you laptops, but you have to get to this person. He would call you very soon. Not long after, the person called me. And he said, okay, I'm in Ilorin. I have your laptops with me from your friend Tunji in the US. Please, could you, how are you going to come to pick it? And I said, okay, I'm going to come there. The next thing he called me, said, okay, I'm somewhere in Ilorin. Please, could you transfer some money to me because I'm stuck?
Indeed.
Yes, and I almost did.
Almost
because
did.
I was, at that instance, I was, excited to have my laptop. And later I now said, come on.
One moment, pause.
So the fact remains, if we keep pushing awareness, sensitization, people keep knowing and knowing. When at the point of you falling, something inside will remind you that you
There's
had
something
the
called
story.
intuition.
Yes.
Sometimes.
So once that comes in, but that can only happen if we have
if there's more enlightenment being created.
Yes, on
okay.
this.
Mr. Michael Udoko, your final words.
Okay, thank you very much. As a final word and advice to our listeners and people watching out there is that the fact remains, you just have to be aware. I'm a strong advocate of awareness, and if you are not aware, then you give the fraudsters the opportunity to thrive. So awareness is one element that would take out that opportunity from the fraud triangle.
We cut them right at the knees.
Yes, certainly.
Interesting.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Michael Udoko, Information Security and Risk Consultant. We've been talking about unmasking fraud. There are some people who have unpatriotic practices and they devastate us as citizens. They exploit us, they rip us off, they steal from us. Identity theft, online scams, pretending they have a job for you, stealing your hard-earned money. Well, it must stop, and one way to bring it to a stop is to be aware. Go online, find about tips, learn how you can arrest them and nip cybercrime and online scams and fraud in general right in the bud. It's been a pleasure having your company on Weekend Deal. Tomorrow is another day, and an exciting package will be unveiled here. Part 2, Unmasking Fraud on Weekend Deal. From all of us here, it's bye-bye and God bless Nigeria.